Hello, Serious Survivor here. I want to do a quick sound check to make sure everyone can hear me good tonight. I hope everybody's having a good night. I hope you're having a great night. Serious Survivor here. I want to do a little feedback there. Just got back from vacation not long ago. It's been a little while since I did a live stream, and I've been looking forward to doing another one and decided to do one tonight. A couple subjects I want to talk about tonight. Awesome. Great. Thanks, Prepper Trucking. Hey, brother. Thanks for having my back in the comments the other day. I appreciate that. I really do. I appreciate it a lot. And I want to talk about a few things tonight. But before we get too deep into it, I want to touch on a couple things. I want to make sure first, anybody that's watching who I've sent a gift out to, who's won the prize, the giveaways, that I make sure you got your gifts. I want to make sure that everything arrived, good to go on that. And I want to talk about another giveaway I'm doing very soon. And it's going to be this weekend or a little bit later. And what it is I'm going to share my screen right here. I'm going to bring something up. Let me do a little rearranging here. And I'm going to share this screen right here. And here we go. This company contacted me. They've been contacting me for a little while, wanting me to do a product review. I'm pretty selective about my reviews, and I'll explain that in just a minute. But this is a product I'll be doing a review on, and I'm going to be giving away 3 of these to some of my subscribers. And tonight I'll be giving away 1 of these, but I won't be able to ship it until after I actually post the product review and do the live stream, which will be hopefully this weekend. It'll be this weekend or maybe Monday or Tuesday at the latest in the next few days. But what this is if we look at this, it's a complete set of flashlights, headlamps, and then lanterns. And I've already got these. They sent me one set to evaluate, and they asked me if I wanted compensation. I told them I didn't want compensation. I wanted 3 extra products to ship, to give away on one of my live streams. One of the things I do like about these, I'll go ahead and tell you, is this right here, going back to this. The fact they use standard batteries. And that's one of the reasons I'm selective about the type of products that I review. So I'll be giving away 1 of these tonight, and I'll be giving away 2 more coming up pretty soon. Let me get my screen back in order here. Okay. All right. And overall, it's a good product. I'll go ahead and tell you that. Check out the review, though, when it comes out. But one of the things I like about it, as opposed to some other things, I'm a big proponent of things that use batteries that I can get anywhere. One of the things I cannot stand and I hate, and I shouldn't use that word, but one of the things I strongly dislike is buying a product, a flashlight, a scope, a laser for one of my firearms, is it'll have a battery that's specialized to it. You got to get a specific type of battery that's going to cost $29, $30, $35 for that battery, and you can't find it everywhere. You can only get it at some gun stores or order it online, and that does not do me a bit of good in a survival situation. But if I have devices that take your standard AAA, AA, 9-volt, things like that, then I can buy rechargeable batteries, and I can use those in those products, and I can use those products indefinitely at that point, as opposed to something that as soon as the battery runs out, if the grid were down, I can't get a replacement battery. So that's just me personally. I don't like the the specialized battery types. And I've had some issues with that over in the past from some product reviews, some companies that contacted me to do a product review. And I would tell them the truth, I don't like that fact. And so they didn't want me to do the review. So I was like, okay. But I think that anything, and this is just my personal opinion, but any device I buy these days, I'm trying to do my best to buy devices that are powered with batteries that I can find anywhere, your standard batteries. Because if it's powered by a standard AA or a standard AAA, or even a 9-volt, or even a C or D, then I can buy rechargeable versions of those batteries, and I can recharge those with a solar charger. And, I've got something that's going to last indefinitely instead of something that's just going to last for maybe a few hundred hours if I'm lucky. But that's what we'll be giving away tonight is one of those. So stick around for a little while. I'm trying not to keep everybody too long tonight. I'm trying to keep this a little shorter. One of the things that I wanted to talk about tonight was something that I ran across today. And it's not something I really ran across today. It's something that's been going on, but it's something that's been sort of bothering me a lot lately. And that's these enhanced unemployment benefits that are keeping people from going back to work. In my hometown, when I was on vacation last week, in my hometown, there were a couple of restaurants that had to actually close down. And that may not sound like a big deal, a couple of restaurants closing down. But in a town with a population of 1,600 people, a couple of restaurants, is a big deal. And even if it isn't a big deal to somebody who's listening, it's a big deal to those people who own those restaurants. And the reason these restaurants close down is because they cannot get anybody to work. And what really brought this to the forefront today was, y'all know that I'm staying up here in Michigan right now. And the county I live in, 1.25 million people, is very, very crowded. I'm seeing the same effect up here, even in this highly densely populated area. I went to the store today, to pick up a couple of drinks and stuff like that. And I was talking to the guy, and he was telling me that, he had to close down. He had an actual deli in there, but he had to close down his deli, and he's afraid he may have to close down his store, or he might have to start working 12, 24-hour shifts himself because he can't get anyone to work. And, I fully understand, if you're making more money not working than going to work, I understand that. But in the grand scheme of things, this is going to have a huge impact months from now. Right now, it's not going to have that big of an impact, but months from now, this is going to have a dramatic impact because as these businesses close down, and they are closing down, then, if something doesn't turn around on this, then what we're looking at is these businesses are going to close before, any government action takes place and stops this, and people actually want to go back to work again. I'm all for making as much money as you can make. I'm not knocking anybody for that. I'm just talking about the entire structure of it. The entire structure of it needs to be revisited, needs to be, reconstructed basically, because when we have people that are refusing jobs when there are multiple jobs out there because they're making more on unemployment, then we have to look at, this unemployment. I'm all for unemployment, but on the same hand, I just have to say that somebody probably shouldn't be making more on unemployment than they were making working. And, that's what causes an effect that we're going to see months down the line, because what we're seeing right now are businesses closing down one by one. It's not like entire towns are shutting down or entire cities are shutting down, but small businesses, one by one are closing down, whether it be due to what we experienced during the pandemic and all that, or whether it be due to the fact that they can't get anybody to actually come in and run the business right now. Well, that's a good question, John. Who works for $2.85 an hour? Servers do. Would you, but that's sort of, I agree with what you're saying. You make more, if people are making more on unemployment, I understand that. But on the same hand, servers, that's a sort of a different category because they do make a lot on tips. I had a stepdaughter once, and she made hundreds of dollars a night on tips. And I know a lot of waitresses that make a lot of money on tips. So, that is the main form of their income. And with businesses closing down, with businesses being restricted, then you're restricting the amount of customers that can come in there to leave those tips. So that's affecting them more, which in turn makes them want to stay home and draw that unemployment more. It's like a vicious cycle. And it's not the people's fault. It's not our fault. It's not the workers' fault. Because I'll tell you right now, if the government told me they would give me $600 more than what I make a week to stay home, I would probably stay home too. And, I can't blame anybody. I'm not faulting anybody for that at all. What I'm saying is that this is going to cause This is going to cause a very large impact on our economy over the next few months. And it's not just that, but it's the businesses that have already gone out of business. And it's the businesses that are going to go out of business. Because as businesses go out of business, and as these smaller middle class, like restaurants, service places, and things like that, go out of business, where are these people going to find jobs? They're going to come looking at the same facilities that you work at and that I work at. And that's going to increase the competition, and that's going to decrease the amount of jobs overall in the economy. It's going to have an effect that we're not going to feel today. We're not going to feel tomorrow, but we're going to feel towards the end of this year. And it's really going to hurt us economically. There's going to be a lot of people out of work because of this steamroll effect here. And it's not our fault. It's not people's fault. It's the government's fault. The government's the one that's doing this. And which sort of leads into something else I want to talk about too. And it sort of leads into something else. And I'm going to share again my screen right here. And this seems like it's changing subject, but we'll roll back and we'll talk a little bit more about this. But I want to share this here too, because it does tie into something else that was said today by the president, and something that's been ongoing for a little while with that old Dr. Fauci. And right here. So let me share my screen again. And I'm not sure how well it's going to come across on my screen. So I'm going to, first of all, I'm going to put a link. I'm going to put a couple links here into the comments section, because I want everybody to check this out if you get a chance. I heard this on the mainstream news, Fox News, one time. Never heard it mentioned, because I'm not a big fan of CNN and places like that. But I'm not going to lie to you. If I do watch the news, I do watch those channels too, because I like to hear both sides of the story. And, because by hearing both sides of the story, you can sort of pick things out in between and see what matches, what don't, and maybe get a little better idea of what's going on. So I'll put a couple links right there. And these links, I'm going to read a little bit right here and share my screen on this. Let me share my screen. All right, now my screen's going to look really weird because I got the contrast turned up high. But this is something that I've been hearing about for a little while, and it's something that a lot of people have suspected, and it's something that's actually come to light. Although it's being, I don't want to say it's being covered up, because you can find the information out there, but it's not being covered. It's not being covered, and this is something that should be covered. China was preparing for a third world war with biological weapons, including coronavirus, 6 years ago, according to dossier produced by the People's Liberation Army in 2015 and uncovered by the U.S. State Department. And these articles, I'm not going to read the entire thing, but I'm going to read a few paragraphs here. Chinese scientists have been preparing for a third world war fought with biological and genetic weapons, including coronavirus, for the last 6 years, according to a document obtained by U.S. investigators. The bombshell paper, accessed by the U.S. State Department, insists they will be the core weapon for victory in such a conflict, even outlining the perfect conditions to release a bioweapon and documenting the impact it would have on the enemy's medical system. Okay. I don't think I actually shared that screen, but there it is right there. My fault on that. But I'm going to bring it back over, and we're going to talk about that a little bit. This is really concerning. Now, it's not like I read this article on just one random website. I've actually found it on multiple. I threw up 2 right there. And you can find, if you do a search yourself, you can find hundreds more that talk about this. This actually is true. And for us to hear this type of information, what does that tell us about what's been going on in the last year or last 2 years, or, last year and a half, I guess we should say now, is if they're preparing for this type of war, we already see China that as being more aggressive than any other nation in history except for Germany. I mean, right now, you think about it, China is being more aggressive than any other nation in recent history except for Nazi Germany. Nazi Germany, they took one nation at a time. They didn't try and take the whole world. They went one nation at a time through Europe. And this is sort of what we're seeing right now. China is expanding, but instead of expanding directly through taking other nations, they're expanding through things like the South China Sea and stuff like that. And this is something that we do have to consider. I mean, biological or, some type of warfare similar to that, chemical, biological warfare is not, it's not something that I would think would be off the table in a World War situation. We used that in World War I. All the nations did. And, it was effective. I mean, I hate to say it, but, it was effective. It killed the enemy. So do you think in a world war that a country like China would hesitate to, to enact something like that? I mean, there are so many discussions right now about where this virus actually came from. They started trying to say it was from the seafood market. Then a lot of things came out and, sort of proved that wrong. Then we found out that the Wuhan lab there was actually being funded partially by the U.S. government for research. And a lot of people say that, this virus actually came from that lab. I don't know, of course, but is it entirely impossible? No, it's not entirely impossible. And it's actually somewhat plausible considering the location of that lab and where this virus initiated at. And we think about this, this virus, there was a death toll. But the death toll was mainly, people who had pretty serious health conditions and things like that. And I'm not trying to downplay anybody's experience with this. I'm just saying that this is quite possibly a test run to see how a virus like this could actually spread throughout the world before something bigger was enacted, if that's the route you want to believe. But that's a pretty serious document there. I recommend checking out those links, and I recommend checking it out further, investigating it further, and seeing that that is true. That was something that was actually produced by China as far as that document and their plans, what they were constructing for a World War III type of event. Because we can't fight World War III the same way we fought World War I or World War II. We know that. World War III is going to be something that is completely different than society has ever seen before. It's going to be destructive on a level that we've never even imagined. Let's see here. Resident Evil. I hear you. Yeah, that would be something else. Ham radio. Yeah, ham radios are pretty good. They're not the easiest things in the Rachel. They're not the easiest things in the world to learn, and but they're definitely good. I would recommend getting one. I've got a couple myself. I am not a licensed ham operator, but I do know how to tune it in and how to listen on different frequencies, and that's good for now in a SHTF situation. I won't hesitate to broadcast one on if I have to. I'm not worried about a license. Kristen, what drugs do you recommend because of China SHTF? That would be a hard one to say. What type of drugs? I'm assuming medication drugs. I don't think China's really is going to hit us with like an all-out nuclear war. As far as drugs go, I think if they do hit us with a biological weapon, I think it's going to be something that we don't have the drugs to counteract right away, or something that we don't have any access to as a civilian, such as this. As medical professionals, they'll have access to more things, but I think that if it's something that's fast acting, if it's something that spreads quickly, our best defense against it is to get away from other people, or get away from the large urban areas and things like that. But I would keep on hand. I always keep on hand potassium iodide, for nuclear emergencies and things like that. I keep on hand a lot of medication, a lot of your standard medication, and I buy. One thing that I have learned though, and that doctors have told me in the past is the truth is, if you're going to buy medication, make sure you buy medication that's made in the United States. And the reason for that is because a lot of this medication that's shipped from China does not have to meet the same regulations that the medication sold in the United States does. That's a good point, LA. That's a good point. You disagree a little bit to China's potential use of biological weapons in a World War III type of event. that the U.S. would probably retaliate like it's a nuclear event. And I agree with you. I think the U.S. The U.S. should retaliate as if it's a nuclear event if we knew for a fact that they launched these type of weapons against us. But on the same hand, it's hard to say that they wouldn't do it. It's one of those things that, you can't sit here and say, I can't sit here and say, we're going to be attacked biologically, by China, but I can't sit here and say that they won't do it either, because China's doing a lot of aggressive things right now. And they're doing a lot of things that would have resulted in war 10 years ago. And they're getting away with it right now. And that's pretty bad. I think that, China believes their military can contend with ours. And at this moment in time, I don't think that China's military can contend with ours. But if we keep cutting the military defense budget like these proposed cuts that we're seeing right now, then 5 years from now, not even that long, probably 2 to 3 years from now, yes, China's military could very well overtake this country. So China, if they're smart, they're going to just play a waiting game and let us fall apart from within, because we're already almost doing that. Yeah, biological weapons would show absolutely no regard for civilian casualties. And, that's absolutely true. That's absolutely true. And, we probably are on a collision course. And, as bad as I hate to say that too, but, that's why we have to look at the world. And that's why prepping, that's why being prepared and gaining as much knowledge as we can, and being close to people around us, and forming groups that we can count on, that we can trust, that we can fight with if necessary, because things are, getting worse. It's not getting better. It's not like we're going to wake up one day, in the next week or two, and all of a sudden China's going to pull their forces back, Russia's going to pull their forces back, and we're all going to be just good and happy forever. No, it's coming to a head, and it's probably going to come to a head quicker than we really want it to. That's a good point. That's a good point, Rachel. And don't they want our land for food? I would think that they would do a grid attack and let us fall apart and then take us over. And that's a definite possibility. That's a definite possibility. And, they wouldn't even have to attempt to take us over if they did a full-scale grid down event. And I got a grid down series that I'm working on right now that's going to be coming out pretty soon. And I'm going as in-depth as I can on this, on how the grid works and every aspect of it, survival, things we need to know, skills we need to develop. But talking about it now, the grid's broken down into 3 sections in the United States, basically. So if there's an attack, say a cyber attack, okay, on one of these sections, the other 2 will be unaffected. So one attack will only affect 1/3 of the United States, basically, or, about 1/3. I'm not going to say exactly. So it's going to take a coordinated effort to bring the entire grid down. So it's going to take a huge effort. If it's a cyber attack, I'm not sure that can be done, because at some point in time, we do got a lot of people defending, our networks and stuff. And I'm not just saying government, but you think about a lot of these companies, they don't want their networks to go down. And they've hired a lot of people that they pay a lot of money to protect these networks, and those people will fight to do so. So it's going to be very hard for them to do that with a cyber attack. An EMP is another another aspect that could be done, but with an EMP, it's going to take more than one EMP. With that being said, one EMP itself, even though TV shows and things like that will show that, the science just doesn't back it up. One EMP above the United States is not going to take down the entire grid. It's going to take, unless it's an absolute huge, the largest EMP that's ever imagined, basically. Anything that's in inventory in any nation right now that we know of is not large enough to take down the entire grid with just one explosion. It's going to take at least 3 to do so. But a grid down event, that's my biggest concern these days, is because I think that's the most logical attack. If I were going to attack the United States, I would attempt to take the grid down. And that would be because with the grid down, you can't call anybody for help. Communications are down, everything's down. And with what we already see going on in this nation, hell, we're already divided. We're split in half. It's basically, whether you want to be or not, you're either a Republican or a Democrat. Even if you don't call yourself one, somebody else is going to call you that. So, it's come to that. And it's hard to picture anything getting better. It's really getting hard to picture us coming together as a nation. Even if we're attacked, I don't believe we're going to come together as a nation. I believe if we're attacked, that half of the nation would side with the attackers. And because that's just what we've seen over the last couple of years. And a grid down would be the best way to get our resources, Prep Brothers. It would be the best way to get it, because with a country like China, they're so overpopulated. They need our resources. And for them to enact a grid down, it would not surprise me one bit. It would not surprise me one bit. That's true, Bill. An EMP attack on the U.S. might result in a return volley that might not be an EMP. And I have to agree with that. And honestly, that's, it would have to be that way to protect this nation. If we're hit with an EMP or multiple EMPs that take out the grid nationwide, then, the civilian population, we're in trouble. The military is hardened. And the military bases and the nuclear bases and the nuclear subs that are under the water, they're protected. And the only resort then to actually protect this nation would be basically to level the nation that did that, if we know that nation. So if we are hit with an EMP, I would expect a full-scale nuclear war to follow shortly after. I don't think any nation would have a chance to actually invade us and take our resources. I think that would result in a lot more devastation than we ever anticipated. Okay. Guns, super chat. Okay, Guns. If the grid goes down due to cyber attack, do you think it would be permanent? And I'm going to tell you that depends on one thing: how good the hackers are. I've worked in robotics, and I've worked in, I'm an electronic engineer is my actual trade. I'm a robotic engineer by trade right now, but my degree is in electronics engineering. And I'll tell you that it depends on the skill of the hackers, because there's things called PWM, pulse width modification. There are servo drives that are variable frequency drives that work on variable frequencies, just like it sounds. If someone hacks into that system and causes physical damage, then that could result in the grid down being permanent. Now, what we saw with this gas pipeline, was what's called a ransomware attack. That's basically, and if you really look into this, it's basically where the hackers or the ransomware, and this is called RAAS. It's actually a business, RAAS, Ransomware as a Service. And there's a lot of others. There's SaaS, Software as a Service. That's your cloud, your Microsoft cloud, your Apple cloud, your iCloud, all that stuff. That's SaaS, Software as a Service. Now you got TaaS, Technology as a Service. And basically these companies are, putting technology, they're controlling your technology remotely. They're controlling your software or hosting your software remotely. Well, with RAAS, these are ransomware attacks. You pay someone to hold a company ransom. When they receive that ransom, then you get your cut out of it. And it's done remotely. The group that does it really generally has no affiliation with the people that paid them. They might not even know the people that paid them. And how permanent this would be depends on how good and how smart the hackers are and their actual desire. If they wanted to ransom that network, if you want to ransom a network, you take hold of their most valuable data and you say, I'm going to give this to every company in the world. I'm going to put it out on the internet unless you pay me this money. And that's what happened with the gas pipeline. And companies shut down. They will not do anything. But if you go in and you change the frequency of a variable frequency servo drive in a nuclear reactor, then it's going to result in a nuclear meltdown, or it can possibly result in a nuclear meltdown. If I change the parameters for the pulse width modification for the servo motors and the robots that handle, because you have robots in a lot of these more modern nuclear facilities, the robots that handle the material, and I change that to where their servo drives burn up, then they're sitting there holding material. They're not able to get it to the cooling tank and things like that. If you are able to control the physical devices the physical devices, by changing their frequencies, by changing their operating procedures, then it will cause permanent damage. It will absolutely cause permanent damage. And once that permanent damage is caused at the generating stations, then you're not going to get power forever until you build a new generating station. Because when we talk about nuclear reactors, if we can't cool that nuclear material, then we are basically going to have to stay away from that area, just like Chernobyl. Just like Chernobyl, you're going to have to stay away from that area until that material has naturally decayed, which will take hundreds, if not thousands of years. So depending on the severity, on the intent, I guess I should say the intent of the attack. The intent of the attack. If their intent is money, then it probably will not be permanent. If their intent is even control, then there probably wouldn't be permanent. And what I mean by that is, if they just want to control you and say, all right, we got your grid, now you're going to follow our orders, and then our government gives in and we follow their orders, yeah, we get our power back. But if their intent is to actually physically harm us as a nation, then this will be a permanent event. It'll be one that, of course, mankind could recover from, but it's going to be one that we're going to have a difficult time recovering from. We will be in the dark ages here, because when those plants melt down, you can't go anywhere near them, and there is no hope for getting power without the proper devices in your home. That's true, LA. We have a lot of nuclear weapons. The only problem, here's the problem with the nuclear weapons in the United States, with the exception of our submarines and our naval ships, the majority of our land-based nuclear weapons are over 40 years old. And that doesn't mean they're not functional. They're functional. Yeah, we could nuke a third world country in a heartbeat and they'd never know it. But could we nuke China with their sophisticated military technology? Because, hell, half of their technology they stole from us. So they know how to counteract a lot of what we will do. And that's going to be, a dangerous situation. A lot of our land-based stuff is going to be difficult to hit anybody with. But, yeah, our sea-based stuff, yeah, we can definitely hit anybody. All right. Now, for a grid down, there's a lot of situations that can bring a grid down. And I'm going to go ahead and rule out for what I'm fixing to say here, something that will devastate the environment. A nuclear war that forces us into nuclear winter with a lot of ground bursts or surface bursts that throws debris into the atmosphere, and we don't see the sun forever, or at least a couple years, then those are going to be extremely hard to recover from. You're going to have preps. Now, I think the most valuable prep that we could ever have, there's two most valuable preps that we can have to be ready for a grid down situation. Now, I'm not counting food and water. Okay, I'm not counting that, because that's something as preppers we should already have. We should already have a stockpile of food and a stockpile of water, or at least means to purify water and access to it, such as a stream, lake, pond, river, or etc. Even the ocean, you can filter salt water. You can desalinize it. It's not that hard. You can do it with you can boil it and catch it with and let it drain. It's pretty easy. I did a video on that a little while back, a couple years ago. I think the two most important preps that we can have for a grid down event, first is knowledge. And when I say knowledge, I mean basic skills. If the grid is down, then the second most important prep is going to come in handy, and that's solar power. But unless you have a complete solar system that's going to power an entire house, then a lot of times the solar power we're limited to, a lot of times that is going to be smaller solar panels. And an example, I'm actually going to be doing a series here on some different solar powers, and I'm not endorsed by this company, but I do want to sort of brag about this one that I got a hold of. And it's a Goal Zero, a Nomad. And this is probably the most sturdy 5-watt solar panel that I've put my hands on. And I've got a lot of them back here. I've got a few more over there somewhere. I got a couple right here that I bought from Harbor Freight and all. And these are okay. They do okay, but this one is so much more rugged. And it's more likely that most people will be able to afford devices like this than a few $1,000s for something that's going to power our own home. And that's where knowledge comes in. With the correct knowledge, with the right skill set and just the right attitude, we can find solar devices without, I mean, I hate to say it, but in a grid down situation, we're doing what we have to do. We're scavenging at that point if it comes to that point. Yes, yes, and I will get to that in just a second, Clarissa. I will answer that when I finish this. But unless you can afford a huge solar system, then we have basically two options. We have scavenging after the event, or preparing with smaller devices, like I was showing you right here. Like I said, I'm not affiliated with that company. I just, I do think that it's a great product, though, and it's Goal Zero solar panels. They're really good. They're really sturdy. I've bought a lot of solar panels, and I've had them fail. After a few uses, they'll crack. They'll just pretty much fall apart. I bought some off Amazon that were dirt cheap, and they fall apart. I spent about $30 on the solar panel, but this thing charges fast. It has a very high efficiency rate, and it's just really sturdy. I mean, it's really sturdy. The panels themselves are just extremely sturdy. I'm not afraid to touch it. I'm not afraid to pick it up and use it. All right, let me. Yes. Is there a way to use a solar panel for an apartment? If so, can we use it? Or I suppose, how can we use it? All right. What's that panel called? It's called the Goal Zero Nomad 5. And I do recommend this. Like I said, this is not something I do a lot of reviews. This is just something I personally bought, and I'm just letting y'all know that it's a good piece of equipment to have. All right. And Clarissa, I'm going to get back to your question right now. Is there any way to use solar panels for an apartment? If so, can we use them? And yes, absolutely, 100% there is. The small devices such as this, you can use, and they will do things like power. They will power up any of the small devices used. Most things work on 5 to 9 volts. Now, there are inverters out there that you can buy. Power inverters. If you want to do some research, look for a solar power inverter. And what that does is that takes if you have a solar panel, that takes the solar panel energy and inverts it, or converts it, if you want to use that word, from DC, because solar power is DC, which is direct current. What you plug into the wall is AC, alternating current. And a power inverter will convert that from your DC current from the solar panel to a 120 AC current for your wall outlet. Now, you're not going to be able to run, your whole house on that, but if you can run a refrigerator or a freezer, then that's going to be good. And that solar panels are becoming so abundant. How many times do you drive by a traffic and intersection, and the traffic lights have a solar panel charging them? Well, you better believe I'm going to be jerking them off of traffic lights, if SHTF does happen. All these street signs we see that are solar powered. You see businesses, that are solar powered. And I'm not, like I said before, I'm not condoning anything illegal, but we're talking about after the collapse. And, you can run a fridge off propane. That's very good. That's a very good point. But yes, that's definitely can be done. And I've about got a document. I think I mentioned before a couple months ago, and I got sidetracked on this document. But I have a document that I'm going to be sharing in my next live stream, and also going to be putting on the website for free. It's hundreds of other documents that I've downloaded from the internet on everything from how to build a gasifier to how to wire up a solar generator to, everything you can imagine. It's got like 50 different subjects in it so far. And none of it, I'm not going to lie, some of it, I put in some words in between and stuff like that, but most of it is things I pulled from other websites that I know for a fact work. And I'll be posting that pretty soon. Yeah, Angel, small solar phone charger works great. I've got a couple of those. These days, solar technology has increased so much that, it's a very efficient means. If you have solar power, and I know a lot of people say, I had a guy at work tell me, why do you need solar power? If the grid is down, you're not going to be able to get cell phone service. Well, I don't need cell phone service. I have a GPS that I've downloaded maps of the entire country on, that if I can power it, I've got maps of the entire nation right there. Solar panels are very efficient, but Yep, that's me. That's a very good point. You have to, I can't take like this small solar panel that I showed you right here. This is great for small devices and it's very rugged. It's very rugged. That's what I love about it. It's very rugged, but it's not going to power my microwave. When you start thinking about things that draw a lot of amps, then just because I got 100-watt solar power, a solar panel, and I have a microwave that says it uses 100 watts, it's still going to be pulling more amps than the solar panel can draw. So, I mean, that solar panel can provide. I mean, you got to match up your equipment with what you want to use your solar power for. When it comes to high power devices, you can get away with running a refrigerator. Anything that runs on your standard 120 that doesn't require a lot of amperage, then you're going to be able to run that with solar power. But some things you're not going to be able to run with solar power, and that's the problem with grid down. With grid down, there are things we can't, we're not going to be able to do with solar power unless you have an absolute complete system, your whole roof covered. But the more you have, the better. If all I have is 4 or 5 of these small devices like this, then, that's going to help me at least charge things I need. And that's where it pays to have solar powered batteries for your other devices. And that's what I dislike about a lot of products out there now, is especially when you talk about firearm products. You look at these lasers, these flashlights, a lot of the high powered scopes, they require these specialized batteries that you can only get from that company. And, I hate that. I won't buy that equipment. I'll buy equipment that I can use normal batteries in, even if it means I sacrifice a little bit. Maybe my flashlight isn't quite as bright as yours, but I can recharge mine. Maybe my laser isn't as bright as yours, but I can recharge it. And that's the kind of thing that we have to look at, is if we're going to prep for this type of event, we have to truly prep for it. And we have to take all those things into account. Not just, do I have the gear I need, but how long can I use that gear for? If I got something that has a specialized battery or a specialized charging system that I cannot get anywhere else, as soon as it runs out, that's just a paperweight at that point. Yes, very good point. Yep, that's me. Very good point. Oh yeah, Chuck. Texas hail kills solar panels. That's an outstanding point right there, because that's one thing that nobody talks about. And, that's one thing that nobody takes into consideration, is weather has an impact on those things. And it's not just that, but, if you're going to set your solar panels up, you're going to want to clear a good, if you're going to set enough up to run your house, and you're going to put them, say, out in your backyard, because down in South Carolina, we got a few that we're setting up down there out in the backyard, and we cut trees all around that area. Nothing can fall on them. So if the worst storm comes through, there's no way that any tree anywhere near it, if it falls, it's never going to hit a solar panel, because we cut those down. You got to make sure that it's safe. It's safe, because if it is damaged, once again, if we're talking about grid down, if it's damaged, then, it's not, there's no replacing it. Yeah, satellite phones are really good. That's something, I'll be honest, I've been toying with that idea too, because a grid down, especially if it were like a cyber attack or something to that effect, satellites are not going to be affected. And even with an EMP, the majority of satellites will survive. And the reason is because, you think about satellites. Satellites are floating in space. They're bombarded by radiation from the sun that we never have to feel down here. That's the type of radiation that will kill us. We're talking about gamma rays, X-rays, very, very damaging radiation to people on Earth, should it, penetrate the atmosphere. And that's what our atmosphere does, is it filters that radiation out. But satellites are built to withstand that electromagnetic radiation. And that's what an EMP is. It's an electromagnetic pulse. It pulses very quickly electromagnetic radiation. It causes what's called the Compton effect, which the Compton effect, in the simplest terms, is basically just one electron bumping another on down the line through the air. And that's the same aspect if you've dealt with electricity, electronics. That's the same exact aspect of how electricity flows through a circuit, is one electron pushing another. And that's what the Compton effect is. It's scattered. Some people will call it Compton scattering. It's called Compton scattering because as the electron bombards another atom, it'll hit that electron and scatter it into the atmosphere. So it causes an electrical surge through the atmosphere. But our satellites are protected from that by design. So satellites stand a very good chance of surviving. At least a lot of them, the heavier protected ones, stand a better chance of surviving than our devices down here on Earth. You think about this, they don't build devices to last anymore. I mean, they come out with a new cell phone model every year, every 6 months. They don't build them to last. They build them to break. They build them to turn in and get a new one. So a lot of these devices we own aren't going to be shielded from some type of EMP. They're just going to, fail. I hear you. Love Florida. I got married in Florida to my wife. We got married down there on Cocoa Beach, on the beach, back a few years back. It was pretty nice. We had a great time down there. We spent a lot of time down there. A few days down there. Had a blast. Haven't been back since though. It's been a few years since I've been down there, but I'd love to go back again. Well, all right, we've been going about an hour tonight. I want to go ahead and give away that prize. Let me show it again, because I'm going to be doing a review on these. And the reason I like these, because I've already checked them out for one thing, is they're like $40 for this whole set. And I know that's not dirt cheap, but that's not exactly $200 to $300, and for a flashlight set. It's a pretty decent price, and I think that they do pretty good for their money, and they use standard batteries that you can recharge. So I do like that aspect. So I'm going to share my screen again here, and just one real quick right here, and let everybody see, get an idea. Let me change my contrast back, disable. And this is the kit right here. This is the kit. I'll be doing a full review showing you how bright they shine and all that. All right, so let me turn that. Did I share that? All right, here we go. I want to make sure everybody sees that. Can you guys see that? All right, yeah, it's showing up. Sorry, got a little distracted with my screen here. I have to move a couple of them around. But that's basically what we're going to be giving away tonight. And we're also going to be giving away a couple more of those here in this weekend or Monday or Tuesday at the latest, because I'm going to have the product review out on them. And like I said, they're going to ship directly from the manufacturer. All right. So let's do a giveaway here. And you guys know how I do it here. And I'm going to write a number down on this card right here. And it's going to be between 1 and 100. And the first person that gets it will win this prize. And as soon as I type in the word go here, then start guessing. All right. Nope. Right there. 51. I saw a winner. 51. I saw a winner. Let me scroll back up and see who it was. I saw the number 51. Hey, let me scroll. Give me just a minute, y'all. Somebody said 282. Who was that? I gotta say, Dan, 282. I hear you. All right. I know I saw 51. And that's the number. So there we go. Rachel Atkins. Rachel Atkins is number 51. So let me I think I should be able to put this up on the screen here. Let me try. Oh, maybe I can't put it on the screen. I guess you guys can scroll up and see it. Let me see. There we go. Rachel Atkins with number 51. So, Rachel, if you will email me at survivor@SeriousSurvivor.com and I will get that. Now that'll be going out after, because I have to actually do the product review and post it. And I've already started on it, but I have to actually finish the editing and all that, and post it, and then I'll be able to ship that out to you, or they'll actually ship it to you. So it'll be sometime next week, and they'll be shipping that out to you. And I think they do like 2 days shipping, so it's pretty quick. You'll be getting it pretty quick. I hope you enjoy it. I really do. And, y'all keep an eye on the channel, because this grid down, I'm putting a lot of time into. I really want to make sure that I cover all my bases on this, all of our bases on this. I want to make sure that any contingency that could come up is discussed in one of these videos. It's only going to be 2 or 3 videos. They're probably 15 minutes long, something like that. But I want to make sure that everything that we could run across is going to be covered in there, or, anything I can imagine anyway. And a lot of good information. And I'll also have that document up here pretty soon too. And that document, I think is I know that me personally, I'm printing it out and I'm keeping it with me, because it has instructions on how to build, gasifiers, how to build wind turbines, how to build, all types of different devices. It's a really good document, and it'll be out pretty soon. And, So I want to say right now, thanks a lot. Appreciate everybody tuning in tonight and listening to me. Make sure to keep an eye on the channel. And thanks a lot for watching. God bless everybody out there tonight. And for now, Serious Survivor, out.